Hi, guys. Welcome back. Listen, every day we share a video about somebody's journey through their weight loss, right? Today we're going to share Molly Cannon, and the name of her video is Popular Weight Loss Advice I No Longer Follow. So, this is going to be some weight loss advice that Molly thinks we should ditch. With that being said, let's hear what she has to say.
These days, you can find weight loss advice everywhere you turn, and as somebody who's tried probably most of the tips out there at some point throughout the years, today I want to share my unsolicited opinion on which ones I no longer follow and which ones are total BS. I'm guilty of having preached this in the past. Eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full. It sounds too simple, right? People who give this advice mean well. Their idea is not to rely on numbers and, calories in MyFitnessPal, but rather to clue into your body and figure out what it's actually telling you that it needs. The problem is that this advice tends to work best if you're already eating fairly balanced meals. The reason being that if you are eating Cheetos or Oreos or things that are designed with a lot of work put into them to make them highly palatable and to make you want to eat more, it's not as simple as just stopping when you feel full, because it's going to take you a long time to feel full, and you'll probably consume more calories than your body really needs in that process. If you're having a lovely tofu or salmon bowl, this advice applies better because you can recognize when you're full and say, okay, I'm good, I can stop. But when you're consuming highly processed foods or fast foods, for example, they're so calorie dense and lacking in fiber and protein that this advice doesn't hold up so well. And honestly, if you eat a bag of chips, you might even still be hungry, even though you've consumed a lot of calories. So stopping when you're full, it's going to take a while. What I would suggest doing instead is learning to stop when you feel satisfied. Satisfied versus full, they're not the same thing. When you feel full, it's just a response to the receptors in your stomach. Whereas when you feel satisfied, you can learn to feel satisfied after you've had a certain amount of Cheetos. The craving is gone. You feel like you've gotten what you were looking for. Maybe that was salt or something sugary. And you'll be able to recognize that point sooner than if you're just looking for that fullness cue. I really hate this piece of advice. So the idea behind this advice is to eat less processed foods. Really, that's what they're getting at. But there are a lot of perfectly safe foods, for example, enriched breads, that have ingredients that I know I couldn't pronounce, but that are completely harmless. Similarly, there are foods that really are not very health promoting, such as common food dyes. They're really easy to say, right? I can say red 40, but that doesn't mean that it's an ingredient. Just because I can say it, I shouldn't be psyched to see it in a package of food that I'm about to buy. And on top of that, people just have different health literacy levels, different familiarity with different ingredients. So somebody who's never seen quinoa before might be confused. I know I was, but it's a totally healthy, fibrous grain that's great to include in your diet. So this advice just seems really simplistic and ignores so many layers that go into what makes a food nutritious or not.
Okay, who else thought quinoa was quinoa? Quinoa, what is this quinoa stuff? You mean quinoa or whatever? Uh, Here's the interesting thing. I saw a video, and if any of you guys saw this video, let me know in the comments, but it was showing ingredients in stuff that you could buy in the UK or in different parts of Europe versus the USA. And when it was showing the ingredients on the packages for the stuff we eat here in the US, it was just an endless list of words that you couldn't pronounce, right? But in the UK and in Europe, it was hardly any words like that. So I don't know if I agree with her there or not. I think there's some words that we might be freaked out by or whatever that we don't need to be. But it does seem like they have some ingredients in there that don't necessarily always have to be in there. Let me know what your comments are. If you think I'm wrong, let me know, and especially if you can let us know why.
I often see people in the health and wellness space promoting this idea that you should look for foods or, packages that have 5 or fewer ingredients. And again, the idea is just to minimize unnecessary additives and ingredients that don't really serve you. But like the last point, it's just way too simplistic. And this doesn't really teach you to actually recognize different ingredients and learn about what goes into different foods and make the determination for yourself whether you think that something aligns with your goals and priorities or not. There are plenty of extremely nutritious and health promoting bars, for example, that have lots of different nuts and seeds and grains going into them. And there's probably more than 5 ingredients. And does that mean that we shouldn't buy them because it automatically makes them unclean or too processed? No.
Do you want like a magazine or something? It's going to be boring if you're just sitting by yourself.
The idea behind this advice is that when you are completely mindful and aware of what you're eating, no distractions going on, then you can be more aware of that point when you feel full. And it can also just help you to enjoy the flavors of your food more. And these are great intentions, but I think it automatically assumes that if you're distracted, then you're going to suddenly overeat and not even realize that you're eating like 5 plates of food and you blacked out when you went to go get seconds, or you completely didn't realize that you ate the whole box of Girl Scout cookies. And I don't think that's really how most of the time it plays out, at least in my experience, but I just don't think it's very realistic. A lot of people are dealing with young children while they're eating, and maybe having that iPad out or the TV on helps them to get through the meal without any breakdowns or meltdowns. Or maybe you work a busy schedule and you want to be able to watch YouTube on your lunch break, and I don't see anything so wrong with that. Furthermore, I think it can actually help some people. So I know for myself, if I'm like playing a game or watching something while I'm having a meal, I'm probably going to forget to go back for more, and that actually buys me more time, because then you may have heard that, after 20 minutes or so, your body can really recognize whether it's full or whether you're still hungry. And so if I'm distracted, I'm actually probably not going to get up and go get more food, and that can benefit me if I'm trying to lose weight.
Yeah, so I agree with her, especially when it comes to Mexican food and Italian food. If you can kind of eat the appetizers, which with Italian food, a lot of times they'll bring you some breadsticks, right? I'm probably thinking of Olive Garden, and you're thinking, Jesse, that's not real Italian food, right? But for me, it is. And with Mexican food, when you're eating the chips and you're talking to your friends and family, a lot of times you can end up getting full before your meal even comes in. My thinking is, why stuff your face at that point? Just take the entree home. You can eat it at a later time. I think what happens is a lot of times we power our way through that and overstuff ourselves. But I kind of agree with her that if it takes us 15 or 20 minutes for our stomach to tell us, hey, we're full, then why wouldn't you want to delay and eat slower? Makes sense.
Many health professionals and dietitians encourage people not to remove triggering foods from their environment, but actually to keep them there and kind of learn to live with them and learn to enjoy them in moderation. And kind of the idea is to take the power away from the food and learn to gain some sense of food freedom and be able to make your own decisions and not feel like you'll always be out of control if you have cookies in the house. And I think this just depends so much on a case-by-case basis. If you have a history of disordered eating, then absolutely take your dietitian or therapist advice around this. But for somebody who just feels like, if I have XYZ food in the house, I'm always going to eat it, I relate a lot to this. And it's not true for everything. I don't think it can just be a blanket statement, but there are some things like baked goods that I've just learned I do much better, especially if I'm in a phase where I'm trying to lose some body fat. It can benefit me not to have those foods that I know are extremely tempting to me in the house. And I don't think that makes it into this forbidden food that I can never touch, and it just makes me go crazy with desire for it. Rather, I'm just way more conscious about when I actually want it, and if I want to enjoy it, then I'll enjoy it outside of the house. And I might keep other things in the house that feel like a treat, but things that I know I'm not likely to kind of overeat and eat past my satisfaction. So again, this just goes back to getting to know yourself.
Oh my God, that was classic. I didn't know that was going to happen there. I didn't watch this far into this video. But I'll tell you what, she looks like somebody that's in her mid to early 20s, right? And I gotta say that what she says sounds pretty down to earth and it makes a lot of sense. If you're the type that can pass up a cookie and it's no big deal, then it's probably no big deal to have it in the house. If you're somebody that absolutely needs to have it out, then remove it from the house. But you got to keep in mind, some of us might have teenage kids, some of us might have grandkids coming around, some of us might have roommates or family members that aren't on diets. So there's got to be a little give and take. But so far, I love everything she says. It's kind of like if you're my age, 47, and your son or daughter says, "Hey, Dad, I want to give you some advice." Sometimes it's hard to take because, you want it to come from somebody maybe that's a little bit older. But in her case, she's perfect. She's giving great advice.
Figure out if you're somebody who benefits from moderation. And maybe if you do say that something isn't allowed in the house, then it does make you want it more. Other people do pretty well with kind of taking an abstinence approach where, at least in the house, you'll have like maybe an alcohol free zone at home, or ice cream free zone if that's the thing that you tend to kind of have trouble with moderating. It doesn't mean that one approach is right or wrong. Just find whatever end of the spectrum or middle ground works best for you when you are trying to cut back on those foods. And a kind of middle ground approach might be to keep the foods at home, but keep them in a very inconvenient and not highly trafficked or visible place in the house. So, if you have a basement, like put the ice cream down there, or put it all the way in the back and keep something like a popsicle, a fruit popsicle up front. And that can help to influence which you're more likely to grab. People who say this are really just getting at the fact that food choices do have a really big impact on our body weight and weight maintenance. And it's usually the most modifiable factor in people's lifestyles. For most people, I would say it's easier to make tweaks to their food habits than it is to increase their exercise. If you're already exercising, there's a limit to where you can do that safely, right? So if you're approaching weight loss by purely just increasing your exercise, there's going to be a point where that's not really healthy anymore and you're over exercising. The thing is, it's not true for everybody, and it really depends on somebody's current habits. For some people, exercise will be the thing that helps them to kind of tip over into a caloric deficit from just maintenance. So if you're already eating pretty healthy, but you live a really sedentary lifestyle, have a sedentary job, you might be able to benefit a lot from just adding in one more exercise session per week, or increasing your non-exercise activity, such as just parking farther away, walking, getting up more throughout the day, dragging out tasks. Things like that can add up a lot. So although I agree with this piece of advice that exercise is not the thing that's going to make or break your weight loss progress, it is a tool in your toolbox when it comes to losing weight. And along those same lines, exercise can have so many benefits beyond just creating a calorie deficit. It helps with mood, stress management, improved sleep, and those things can all help with weight loss too. So I don't want people to think that exercise just doesn't matter anymore, and all you have to do is cut calories like crazy until you're just not enjoying eating anymore.
So again, bravo, Molly Cannon. I thought you did a great job. I think what she says makes total sense to me. The main thing that is, though, is that you have to exercise, even if it's as little as a half-hour walk. You just have to do it, because all the people that are joining me on my walks, the only reason you're joining me is because you're obviously a little bit overweight. The only way that could be is if you're eating a little bit more than you should. And a lot of times those things that we eat are the sweet things. Let's be honest. They just are for most of us. With that being said, the exercise we do is walk. So go grab your shoes. Let's go for a walk. Good morning. Happy Monday. I want to talk for a minute to the car wash girl. Car wash girl, you left me a couple of different comments on a video that I made about a person's before and after picture. and you were talking about how you enjoy my little talk while I'm walking. And I want to let you know what I want to tell everybody at the beginning of the videos, and maybe I will tonight. The best part of the videos is not the beginning part where we learn about people's successes and failures and diets that they're trying out. The best part of the video is after the reaction at the beginning, which is what we're doing right now. It's the walk. Because what you really don't get with many YouTube videos is people that are hands-on walking with you. Yes, you can do some step videos, right? Where people are walking like crazy in their homes, right? But I never enjoy that. As a matter of fact, when I'm stepping, I feel like I'm actually doing a little bit more intense stuff with my knees and hips and joints, right? When I'm walking outside in particular, I feel like I'm walking at a real natural pace. Why do I mention that? Well, after my walk during the day, a lot of times during the midday, when it's a little too warm to be outside, what I'll do, car wash girls, I'll go to my gym and I'll do maybe a half hour on the treadmill. In other words, I take multiple walks. But when I'm walking on the treadmill, I tend to mess with the speed of the treadmill. I try to get it up there to 3.8 to 4.0 on the speed. What that equates to is me literally walking a mile about every 15 minutes. But when I'm walking outside, I tend to walk closer to a mile every 20 minutes. So I'm going at about 3 miles per hour when I'm walking outside. When I'm walking on a treadmill in a gym, I'm walking about 4 miles per hour. But the reason I think people would get more if they walked with me rather than just watch only the beginning part of the show is that we talk about weird things here at Walk Talk Vent. You know, when you're usually doing a workout routine, you usually don't hear words like Kaizen. And you might be new to that word, but a lot of my subscribers, they already know what Kaizen means. Kaizen is a Japanese philosophy that basically says, through baby steps, we can accomplish great things. So when you're first walking with me, what I try to do is I try to get people to just take a little morning walk right before they go to work. You know, on Mondays, it's especially important because Mondays are one of those days where traditionally we moan and groan, oh, time to go back to work, right? But if we can start every day with a walk, and that morning walk kind of serves as our morning cup of coffee, right? It helps us wake up, helps us prepare for the challenges of the day. If you have to work with Dale, Dale is the coworker that always gives you grief. Sometimes your morning walk can help you prepare for that upcoming day or that upcoming week working with Dale, right? Because, oh, that Dale, he can be a pain in the butt, right? When you're walking, you can come up with proactive solutions. So Kaizen says, let's get a little bit better today than we were yesterday. In other words, a 10 or 15 minute walk, your first couple of days walking with us, you could probably find a way to extend that into a 30-minute walk. And then a couple months in, maybe you can extend that into a 45 or 60-minute walk. So that's how baby steps help us go further. As we proceed and we start to enjoy our walk, we start to notice that, hey, it makes dealing with Mondays and people like Dale a little bit easier because now instead of being reactive, where you're behind the game or behind the 8 ball, you can become proactive, where all of a sudden you're ahead of the game. You know, when people like Dale say weird comments that upset you, you can kind of mentally prepare for them when you're on your walk. On another note, through baby steps, while we start with a walk, there's 3 components to my plan. My plan is to not only get you guys to the point where you love and enjoy having your daily walk, but I also want you guys to contemplate what exactly you're eating on a Monday through Friday routine or Monday through Friday scenario. And I should say Monday through Sunday scenario because we eat all 7 days, right? And if you find out that you're consistently eating chocolate milk with, bacon and eggs on Monday, and you're consistently eating cereals the rest of the week and sodas, a lot of times we can take that information and we can have some power and use that to our advantage when it comes to our diet. But Jetchi, how do we do that? Well, Bob, the way we do that is we can say, hey, I'm pretty consistently drinking 2 soda pops a day. Each soda pop's 150 calories, right? So that means every day, Bob, you're drinking 300 calories. If we could cut one of those 2 sodas out with a walk and water, then all of a sudden we cancel 300 calories of that 300 calories that you're drinking. And what happens if we end up getting rid of that extra soda a day? Then ultimately we start to get to a point where instead of gaining 300 calories every day like you're doing now, all of a sudden you're consistently losing 150 calories just by adding 1 walk and just by cutting out those 2 sodas. And when you think about that, you're like, hey, now between those 3 things that I'm doing, cutting out the 2 sodas, walking, and drinking water, now all of a sudden I'm losing 150 calories a day. Guys, that's not a 150 calorie difference. That's a 450 calorie difference. Those things are huge, but they don't happen overnight. If you try walking a 1-hour walk out of the blue every single day, and you try cutting out your water, cutting out your soda by drinking nothing but water, and you try cutting out your sweets by eating nothing but unsweetened foods, right? That's going to be so restrictive that many of you won't be able to make it past day 1 or day 2 without wanting to quit. So what we have to do is we have to strategize. How can I get you guys to look at food the same way I do? How can I get you guys to look at your daily walk the same way I do? Well, by getting you to walk just for 15 to 21 days, I believe I can make walking a habit in your life. And it's a darn good habit to have. And if you get to the point after 15 or 21 days where you can say, you know what? Jesse's right. There's something really powerful about this daily walk. It gives me time to think. You know, we live in a world that is so full of mischief that it's really hard to focus, right? It's the TikTok generation. We literally watch videos that are 45 minutes long and we only watch 30 seconds of them, you know? What you have to learn how to do is to get back to the way we used to be, where we were actually able to focus on things. So by walking every day for just 15 or 20 days in a row, I believe most of us will find that we thoroughly enjoy it. Most of us will find that unlike running or exercising at the gym, it doesn't give us any soreness. It doesn't weaken us and make us feel crappy, right? On the days that we work out hard, it just gives us energy. This is that one exercise you can do every day that doesn't really feel like exercise. And that's when you start to feel like you're cheating the game. That's when you start to feel like, holy shit, I've learned a secret superpower here. You don't have to go to the gym 4 days a week, lifting weights and doing this, that, and the other. However, our plan still wants you to do those things. We just consider those things extra credit. So what happens is, if you watch one of my videos, it just looks like a guy babbling about this, that, and the other, right? But the reality is that's only because people are watching one video. If you've watched all my videos from day 1, you'll see how I slowly but surely try to get people to walk away from sugar and walk away from soda pop. I believe that's the scourge of the world. Are there some people out there that don't eat sweets at all, but they still gain weight? Yes. Are there some people out there that even if they do my plan completely, it might not work? Yeah, I suppose. But here's the problem, car wash girl. If you look around me, it's a weekend. No one's working, yet no one's out walking. Why do I mention this? When you go up to every Tom, Dick, and Harry and Cheryl that's out there, and you say, hey, Tom, what do you do for your exercise? Do you go to the gym? There's a good chance that they'll say, no, I don't go to the gym, but I walk a lot. I'm a big believer in walkers and walking. But the reality is, I'm the only one out here. And I record sometimes in the morning, sometimes midday, sometimes afternoon, sometimes even early evening. My subscribers will tell you, you can count the walkers that I see on one hand. I almost said 5 hands, on one hand. And a lot of times the walkers that we come by are the exact same walkers. And you're gonna notice this phenomenon too, car wash girl. If you get to a point where you start walking every day, you're gonna quickly notice you're the only one walking. And when you're the only one walking, you have to ask yourself this question. How the hell is everybody walking? How the hell is everybody so sure that walking doesn't do shit for people when nobody's actually trying it? I hate when I hear, hate is a heavy word, I dislike when I hear that people downplay walking as some goofy thing that people that can't work out or can't lose weight do. Because what they're saying is they're not willing to even try a walk. And just because you try a walk for a couple of days, if you're expecting some miracle to happen in a couple days from walking, you're never going to find that miracle. Walking works when you're willing to say, hey, we need to make this a lifestyle change. We need to do this for the rest of our life. That's what makes this so challenging for people. They think when you commit to taking a walk for the rest of your life, that you're in some way punishing yourself. Guys, this is the most beautiful thing I do, and whether I'm holding a camera or not, this is what I do multiple times a day, and I've done so for many, many years. Well, how did you get fat, Jesse? I had a surgical procedure that literally had me laid up for a couple months. During a couple months, it's easy for people to get a little discouraged about this, that, and the other. And when you get discouraged about this, that, and the other, and you're laid up at home, and you're not able to walk, it's real easy to go into bad habits. What happened, Jesse? Well, instead of one bowl of ice cream occasionally here and there, I started eating ice cream and cakes and sweet cereals every day. It became a commitment to do the wrong thing. When you commit to do the things that we always do in life, what I call the wrong things, right? No walking, no exercise, eating junk food, laying in your bed all day, sitting at your workstation all day, but not doing anything involving movement, guess what? You're committing to an exercise routine there. It's the anti-exercise routine, and you're going to be successful at that, right? You're going to easily be able to gain 3 to 5 pounds a month by doing nothing. So what I have to try to do is I have to try to get you in that mindset of I'd rather do nothing into doing something. And I'll tell you what, 90% of people that own a gym membership don't end up going. What's crazy about the human brain is those same 90% of people that don't go, about half of them don't quit their membership. They pay this monthly or yearly bill to keep this membership alive, thinking that maybe next week or maybe tomorrow I'll go to the gym. That is crazy. If you're not going to go to the gym, stop your membership, save that money, go shopping, get yourself a nice pair of Reeboks or New Balance or whatever running shoe is your favorite, put them on your feet and go for a walk. If you can't talk yourself into doing a couple push-ups, sit-ups, and leg lunges a day, or if you can't talk yourself into taking a simple 15 or 20-minute walk each day, then what makes you think you're going to be a workout warrior? There is absolutely nothing in your DNA that tells me you're going to be a workout warrior if you can't even do a push-up at home and you can't even go for a walk. Now, if you go for a walk at home like I'm suggesting, and then after a while you're like, man, I'm going to do what Jesse does. I'm going to start eliminating my sugar, drinking more water, and doing some push-ups and sit-ups. At that point, you could find yourself saying, you know what? I want to take it to the next level. I want to go to the gym and start lifting weights on top of it. Then the gym becomes extra credit and it becomes something worthwhile to have. What about proactive thinking, Jesse? Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Bob. It's getting hot as hell here in Arizona. Would you believe it? It's 8 o'clock in the morning and it's already 84, 85 degrees, and it feels hotter because the sun is right on me, right? A proactive Jesse would say, why don't we get a gym membership so that when it's incredibly hot, like 115 outside, then what we could do is we could go to the gym and continue our walk. And that's what I want a lot of you guys to consider. Most gyms or churches or rec centers in our areas, most of them do charge 10 to 20 bucks a month for a membership. Is that something that we all want to do if we're flat broke? No, of course not. But if you look around, do a little studying on it, you might be able to find some place that's extremely cheap, like your city's rec center. If you're able to stay in a nice air-conditioned building and do your walks during the hot of the summer or during the freezing snows of the winter, or if you live in the UK, which I believe Car Wash Girl does, because she used the word whilst. Only people in Australia and the UK use the word whilst. Americans usually don't. So that's how I have a feeling she's from the UK. Car Wash Girl, if you ever see this, tell me if you are indeed from the UK. But in the UK, correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of like Portland or New Orleans, where it rains 3 or 4 days out of every 5, right? Some of those rains are excessively hard, I would imagine. Some of those rains are going to make walking feel darn near impossible. So why not go to a secondhand store and see if you can pick up a treadmill for your living room? If you don't want to have that heavy equipment in your house taking up space, then why don't you think about going to the gym so that on those crazy rainy days, you can still get on that treadmill? And if you do what I do, which is in the mornings, you try to beat the heat, get in a morning walk outside, and then after work, I try to go to the gym and do another walk inside. I'm probably one of the few people I go to the gym and don't even necessarily lift a weight. And by the way, I like weights, so I'm not against lifting weights. It's just not really one of those things that as a 47-year-old is as important to me. And as far as toning and stuff, I think you get more toning out of push-ups and sit-ups. Those old school calisthenic free exercises that anybody can do from anywhere, you know? And I would love your guys' thoughts on this because I think a lot of you have kind of baby stepped into different things with me. Car Wash Girl, one of the things that we've recently started was our 7:30 club. Our 7:30 club is basically where most of us have our final meal of the evening around 5, 6, maybe 7 p.m. And then usually around 8, 9, 10, we find ourselves moseying into the kitchen. Moseying is a word that we use in America that you in England probably don't use, but it basically means meandering oneself into the kitchen, right? You mosey into the kitchen and you end up eating that second or third bowl of cereal. You end up eating that first or second piece of cake. And sure, I'll take a Coke to wash it down. By eliminating that last meal and just, not eating after 7:30, that kind of became a fun little baby step for us to do this last couple of weeks of the challenge. And I'll tell you what, if you guys are sticking by that, because there's about 10 of us that decided to baby step into that together, you're probably already starting to see some benefits from that. One of the things that I try to do that this plan can create is a situation where your monster-sized hunger with your monster eating pains can subside. That's the real key to weight loss. When I first started, my first couple days, my hunger pains were intense. I would literally wake up feeling a burning stomach, or a burning feeling, inside of my stomach. And that burning feeling literally forces you to either eat or feel sick. I don't want anybody to feel sick or nauseous or, uncomfortable. So I always say, if you have hunger pains, eat. But if you let me just control one of your meals a day, okay, which is your breakfast, what I try to do is I try to get people, if you're eating cereal and you love cereal, see if you can baby step down from, let's say, Captain Crunch to something less sweet, like maybe Honey Nut Cheerios. And then from there, if you could step down to maybe rice Chex or plain Cheerios, something that's really boring, maybe cornflakes without sugar. The reason I say that is because sugar is what makes those hunger pangs worse. Sugar is what makes us crave those sweets and things. If we can slowly make our breakfast dull, and I'm a big fan of plain oatmeal as well, then what happens is pretty soon we wake up, and in the morning we no longer have those hunger pangs. And I believe that if I could rid you of those painful hunger pangs, I believe I can make losing weight so much easier for all of us. And the best way to lose weight and get away from those hunger pangs is to get away from the sugar. And one of the best ways we can start that is with that first morning breakfast. That first morning breakfast is where you have your coffee with 2 sugars and 2 creams. Can we eliminate that? No, we can't. Quit mentioning it, Jesse. I don't want to eliminate that. Okay. Well, can we eliminate one of those 2 sugars? Can we baby step down that way? Probably, right? And instead of some sugar cereal, can we eliminate that and do plain oatmeal? If I don't mess with your lunch or dinner, can you just do that? So before you know it, you have a lot of people that are eating better in the morning, they're eliminating sugar, they're walking daily, they're drinking water, because if you eliminate soda, what else are you gonna drink? You're gonna drink water. Well, no, Jesse, I'll just go to sweet tea. Look, sweet tea is a great way to step down from soda, but it's still sweet. So if you do sweet tea, then the following week, go to semi-sweet tea, then go down to unsweetened tea, and then go down to drinking water. This is also going to have a nice effect on your wallet. If all of a sudden you're taking a sandwich to work, you're drinking water, you're walking at your lunch at work, all of a sudden you're not going to McDonald's and Burger King so much. All of a sudden you're eating well instead of eating swell. What's eating well compared to eating swell? Eating well is eating something that's going to give you energy and help you in your goals. Eating swell is whatever makes you feel better at the moment. And that's what happens at lunch at work. We end up saying, hey, Bob, hey, Joyce, you want to go with me? I'm going down to, McDonald's. You want something? And before you know it, everybody's pigging out. And you don't feel darn guilty about the food that you're eating when everybody's eating the same junk food with you. But even if you're forced to go to McDonald's, Car Wash Girl, there's a strategy you could have. You could take that McDonald's Big Mac, right? And you could take off one of the buns to lessen the impact of the Big Mac. You could give somebody your French fries to lessen the impact of the meal. Instead of a sweet tea or a Sprite or a Coke, you could get an unsweetened tea or a bottle of water. And if you want to be somebody's friend at work, you could offer them your fries and soda. But here's another thing you can do. Instead of buying the $13 meal, why don't you just buy the $6 sandwich from the meal? And all of a sudden, you're in a spot where you're saving $5 a day. And believe it or not, in other videos, what I try to get people to do is take that $5 savings and put it in your savings account at the end of the week. $5 saved times 5 lunches at work, that's $25 a week. Put that into your savings account. At the end of the year, you'll have more than $1,000 saved. There's different things that we can do to improve ourselves. And if we baby step our way into it, it hardly seems challenging and it hardly seems like work at all. That's why if you do the walk, talk, vent protocol or exercise plan or whatever the heck you want to call this babbling guy that you listen to, if you actually apply my plan, you'll find out that it works. What I've done over the past couple years is I've looked at other diets and I found out that there's a basic principle that all these diets abide by. And that basic principle is that despite what they eat, they all want you to drink water, they all want you to avoid sugar, and they all want you to basically exercise and have movements. So if that's basically what our plan is, movements and avoiding sugar and drinking a lot of water, you're probably going to have the same results as people that are doing some pretty tough restrictive diets. Well, wait a minute, Judgy. Your diet is really restrictive and really difficult and, it never ends. No, it actually does. So let me tell you this, car wash girl, this is probably the part that makes it the most enjoyable. Because you walk every single day, you're able to take a day off walking whenever you want or whenever you need. You get a phone call, you've got to leave state to go help your mom in another state. You can take the day off walking. It's not going to hurt you one bit. When you go visit your mom, ask your mom if she wants to go on a walk with you, you know? Because you drink water every single day. That means when you meet up with your mom once a week, you can have coffee with a sugar in it. You can have a sweet tea. You can have a Coke. No big deal. Why is it no big deal? Because you don't drink that stuff all the time, right? And because you don't drink soda anymore and you're drinking mainly water, and because you avoid sugar, that means when your kids or your grandkids say, Mom, Grandma, will you have a piece of cake with me? You can say yes. Now, there's a lot of internal debate within the venters. The venters are the people that listen to the walking part of the show and walk with me. Some of us believe you can eat sugar. Some of us believe you should stay away from sweets altogether. And some people are very successful at that. So whether your diet includes one that's very restrictive or very liberal, you can still have success by walking with us. Our plan here is not going to affect any diet negatively because every diet, once again, wants you to walk, wants you to drink water and stay hydrated. I'm practically nude in my underwear, but whatever we got to do to get this bad boy as low as possible. Oh, come on, always something. Look at that. Woohoo! Okay, another thing that we talk about in the walks is how to be proactive. So one of the things that just happened was my battery on my GoPro overheated. So what do? I keep a second battery in my pocket. So we're being proactive. That's one of the things that I try to teach you with your walk. Your walk is a great time to jump into your mental think tank and be proactive. Jesse, why the heck are you stopping? Because one of the mistakes that I made today that you'll make too is sometimes we pick the wrong shoes. See those blisters on my feet that are literally forming because instead of shoes, I wore these ugly sandals from Walmart. These sandals are wonderful around the home, but when you walk, they feel fine for the first 10 or 15 minutes, and before you know it, they're digging into your feet. So in addition to Kaizen and baby stepping and avoiding sugars and stuff, one of the other things that I tell you is go to the store, buy yourself a nice pair of walking shoes. If your shoes start to wear down and not feel so comfy, don't torture yourself. Go buy a second or a third pair so you can switch them up. When you have shoes that you give a break to, in other words, you wear a shoe once a week rather than once a day, the foam that's part of the sole can actually bounce back to life. What it does is it actually makes your shoes live longer, not just because you have other shoes and that because you give them a day or two off. It's because during that day or two off, the foam in the sole is able to kind of reconstitute itself. It's able to get back to normal. So even your shoes sometimes need a break. Don't do what Jesse did just today and only take one battery in your GoPro. Don't do what Jesse did today and wear these uncomfortable Walmart sandals. Wear shoes. Because I'll tell you what, somebody out there right now is on a walk in uncomfortable shoes, and this blister that these are giving me on top of my feet, you're experiencing the heel blister, which is even worse. Have you ever had a heel blister and you're wearing a pair of shoes? I can see women that are wearing high heels, and some of them have the gnarliest looking heels that are bloody and all this nasty stuff, and we all do it. We all have worn these uncomfortable shoes. You are ruining your feet and you are ruining your ability to walk. And for the next couple of days, even when I wear socks and shoes on my walks, I'm going to be feeling these uncomfortable blisters on the top of my feet. Don't do it to yourself. Learn from my mistake. So one of the other things that happens with our little troop here is a lot of times we not only encourage each other, but because of my video I have at the beginning where we see different diets and different struggles that people are going through,
a lot of times we're able to commiserate with one another. You know, hey, I tried that diet. This is what it gave me problems with. Hey, I tried that plan and I actually gained weight on it. Hey, this is why that plan didn't work for me. When you hear other people converse and comment, it makes you realize that, hey, I'm not on an island. I'm not the only one that's noticing these things. And when you have a situation where you have a good team behind you, you have somebody that'll walk with you every day, me and the team, all of a sudden, walking for the rest of your life doesn't seem so darn difficult. When you know that you can take a day off whenever and it has little to no effect on your exercise routine, that's empowering. That's freedom. So yes, although you work out every single day and you do these arduous things like avoiding sugar every single day, they're not difficult at all because you never have to struggle. If you have a cake to eat there with the family members for a birthday, eat the cake. The important thing is that you observe the 2/3 rule. What's the 2/3 rule, Jesse? Well, the 2/3 rule states that if you miss your walk one particular day, still drink water and avoid sugar that day. If you drink a Coke, go right back to water and still walk and avoid sugar for the rest of the day. If you have a piece of cake or sweet cereal, don't stress, just continue drinking water and make sure you go for your walk. This is what life is about. This is why you don't want to rely on just exercise or just a diet, but rather a combination of the two. Because now if you skip an exercise day, you're not just doing nothing, you're still eating well. If you mess up on your diet plan, you're not just messing up on your diet plan, you're still exercising. And even on days where you absolutely are sick as a dog, I still think you should watch us walk and take a mental walk with us, because when you immerse yourself into a culture, you're able to learn the language. So what I mean by that is the best way to learn Spanish would be for us to drop you into the heart of Mexico or the heart of Spain, right? And there you would slowly but surely learn Spanish. You'd have to learn real quick how to say, ¿Dónde es el baño? You know, where's the bathroom? You have to learn how to say gracias, thank you, and certain words, and quickly you would pick up a language. Well, that's the same with this. If you're not walking, take a mental walk with us. Start to hear our techniques, our strategies. Start to see if there's a method to our madness. And pretty soon you'll find out that even though it seems pretty unprofessional, that might be on purpose, you know? And sometimes it's better to go walking not with your doctor, who would never in a million years go on daily walks with you. Sometimes it's better to go with a friend. That's where I come in. So anyway, friend, it's your week, it's your Monday. Enjoy your week, and we will talk soon. Have a great day.